In this video, I'll be reacting to Lauren Knight Hughes' video titled Carnivore for Athletes, 7 Pro Tips for Success. So I'm assuming that she's the pro giving these tips, which I find kind of funny because I looked on her LinkedIn page and she has no formal nutrition education, training, certifications of any kind. What I did find is that she's the director of sales for Indeed, which is pretty cool, but she is not a nutrition authority. As you'll see in this video, she's actually pretty clueless about nutrition. But let's watch the video and see if she can sell me on the carnivore diet being appropriate for athletes. Hi, my name is Tim DeLeo. I'm a licensed sport dietitian. Welcome to my channel, Sport Nutrition Academy. As a licensed sport dietitian, I've been working with high-level elite athletes at the Division I and professional level for the past 10 years. The mission of my channel is to provide the best evidence-based sport nutrition information and advice for athletes everywhere. So if I come across this video by Lauren and it was in regards to a recreational athlete or overweight individuals looking to lose weight, maybe wanting to follow the carnivore diet, I wouldn't have given it two thoughts. But the fact that she is targeting this video toward athletes, that's what really burns my ass, because nutrition is already confusing as it is, let alone when we have people who are not experts, not credentialed, have no nutrition background, giving misinformation to athletes who are easily influenced because, they often know a little about nutrition themselves. So anyways, that's enough of me ranting. I got a little snack here. So let's dive into Lauren's video.
All of my athletes out there, this one is for you. And I've had a lot of people ask me about how to do carnivore or animal-based when doing an athletic lifestyle.
So first of all, there is a huge difference between living an active lifestyle and being an athlete, or even a high-level athlete for that matter. I think of an athlete, I think of someone who's training for several hours a day at a very high intensity, not some recreational athlete who plays, pickup basketball on the weekends or likes to run trails or, hits up Planet Fitness for some cardio or weightlifting. Those active individuals and high performing, high level athletes are not the same. And the nutritional recommendations for those two groups of people will be very, very different.
I'm going to give quite a lot of points. I'm also going to recommend some food, and that's based off of protein and calories that I do.
So now we've learned why she considers herself a pro, and it's because she has done the carnivore diet herself. So just because you decide to eat a certain way does not make you an authority or give you, any kind of credibility to be able to coach other people to follow the same thing. Like, I brush my teeth every day and have never had a cavity, but that doesn't mean I'm going around giving people advice on how to take care of their teeth.
If you are having processed foods, just 100% delete those from your lifestyle.
And I think this is something that most people can agree on. Processed foods offer very little in terms of nutritional value and certainly are detrimental to health when consumed in excess. Though, yes, you should be avoiding and eliminating highly processed foods from your diet.
The end goal for all of this for us athletes is to be eating based off of intuition. You can feel what your body needs, what it doesn't need.
And here's where I would disagree with Lauren, because I feel that many people, including high-level athletes, have lost their intuition around food. Athletes training at a high level for several hours a day might often lose their appetite or desire to eat, despite the fact that they actually need to be consuming quite a lot of calories to support their training. This is how many athletes fall into a condition of underfueling or relative energy deficiency in sport. So I personally believe that intuitive eating is not really a solid approach for most high-level athletes. They need to have some awareness around how much they should be eating. For recreational athletes, that's a different story. I think intuitive eating could potentially be appropriate.
We're animals. We eat what animals eat, just like any other animal out there.
Which is correct. And humans are omnivorous animals, which means we consume and have the ability to consume both plant and animal food sources. So you shouldn't be following a carnivore diet in the first place.
This right here is for everybody running trails, running long distance, marathons, lifting weights, yoga, playing a sport like soccer, basketball, like I played, rugby, all that kind of stuff. This is for y'all.
Here's where I disagree with what you just said, because the majority of athletes in those types of sports, with the exception of yoga, are you really an athlete if all you do is yoga? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. But those types of athletes should not be following a carnivore type diet. And that's because studies done on ketogenic diets and low carb diets, by the way, there have been no studies done on the carnivore diet specifically, but low carb keto diets in athletes has shown to be detrimental to performance and offers little benefit. And that's even after fat adaptation, because you only see that benefit for adaptation up until about 70% of VO2 max. Most of the sports that she just listed are going to have athletes performing well above 70% of their VO2 max for most of the competition.
The way that we want to measure our protein if we're doing this lifestyle as an athlete.
Now, on one hand, you just said that you recommend following a more intuitive approach where you're listening to your body, but now we've completely flipped and we're talking about measuring protein. That just does not make sense. Which approach are we going with?
The thing that a lot of people screw up is that they don't get enough calories in their day, meaning they don't get enough protein or fat in their day. And as an athlete, you need both.
Well, certainly following a carnivore diet is not going to help these athletes get in more calories, because inherently high protein, high fat diets and the removal of entire food groups like all the plant foods is going to put you in a calorie deficit to start. And lots of research on ketogenic diets has shown that they often do result in weight loss, which means you are not getting enough calories to maintain your weight. So if athletes are having issues with getting in enough calories, the absolutely last thing they should be doing is following a carnivore diet, which will make it even more difficult for them to get in the calories they need.
Starting out, we want to, basically have enough calories. So a good way to approach this actually would be to look at just kind of like the calorie to body height and weight needs.
We're a little over 3 minutes into this video, and already she's going off the rails, showing us how clueless she is about nutrition. You should not be basing your calorie needs off of your height and weight alone. That is a terrible approach, especially if you are an athlete. There are other things to consider, like your age, your gender, yes, your height and weight, your body composition, your activity level. So many other things that are going to go into determining how much you should be eating to be adequately fueled. So again, it just doesn't make any sense to base your calorie needs off of height and weight alone. So don't do that.
I'm about 150 pounds, right? So at minimum, for me to make sure that I'm retaining my muscle and not atrophying, that means I need to have about 150 grams of protein per day.
She tells us that she weighs about 150 pounds, because she also gives a recommendation of eating 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if she's only eating 1,500 calories per day, that is essentially her RMR, her resting metabolic rate. No athlete should be eating an amount that is equivalent to their resting metabolic rate. That is simply not adequate.
So that means I can often have up to like 200, 220, 230 calories from protein that day.
So other than her height and weight parameters, I'm not really sure how she got this range of 1,500 calories, which again is her RMR. Never should eat that low amount of calories, way up to 2,500. Like, where are we getting those numbers from?
Make sure that you have at least the amount of grams of protein to that goal weight every single day, and that should get you pretty far. So every gram of protein has about 4 calories in it. So if you multiply 150 grams times 4 calories, that means I have 600 calories a day. The rest of my diet can come from fat, and 1 gram of fat is equivalent to 9 calories.
I think it's safe to say that the intuitive eating train has left the station. Now we're talking about calories. We're talking about calories per gram of protein and calories this, calories that. That is nothing like an intuitive eating approach.
So some solid recommendations here as far as food that you can eat based off of calories and protein are a few here that I'm going to list. The first would be a ribeye steak, which has about 70 to 100 grams of protein, and that's around 800 to 1,200 calories.
So again, I don't know where she's getting this information from, but 100 grams of protein in a ribeye steak, that's a big ass ribeye steak. In fact, that's probably close to 1 pound of ribeye. And I would pay money to watch her try to eat 1 pound of ribeye steak in a sitting. Not gonna happen.
1 strip of bacon is about 3 to 7 or 3 to 6 grams of protein and about 45 calories. I have about 4 to 6 strips of bacon a day.
So earlier in the video, she talked about eliminating highly processed foods, but now she's talking about and recommending that we eat 5 to 6 slices of bacon a day. Bacon is literally one of the unhealthiest foods you can put into your body. And that's been proven by loads and loads of research on highly processed meats. So would love to see what her colon is looking like in about 10 to 15 years. I will pass on the bacon and will not be recommending athletes that I work with to eat much bacon every single day.
A pound of ground beef. This is another great way to get high protein. It's about 75 to 100 grams of protein in a pound. And in a pound, you can get 800 to 1200 calories.
So she told us earlier that some days she only eats 1500 calories. So if a pound of ground beef has 1200 calories and she eats a pound of ground beef at a meal, that means she only has 300 calories left for the entire day, which essentially leaves her, maybe 3 strips of bacon. But eating just one meal for an entire day's worth of calories is not adequate or appropriate for an athlete. And if she's only eating that 1 pound of ground beef, being 100 grams of protein, she's falling well short of that 150 gram of protein target that she set for herself just a minute ago. So we're starting to put the puzzle pieces together that, unfortunately she doesn't really know a whole heck of a lot about nutrition.
Getting into the other things that we need, we really do need to get enough salt as athletes, and we need to get electrolytes.
Is salt an electrolyte? You don't even need to Google it. I'll tell you right now. Yes, salt is a freaking electrolyte. So you don't need salt and electrolytes. You just need electrolytes. Like, holy mother of God. She does not know anything.
Do not sleep on electrolytes, you guys. This is so key. Let me tell you why. Before I started coaching on carnivore, I was just kind of learning and going, and no one really knew what it was. It's pretty long time ago. And so I would go run trails. I would do like 10 miles, and I'd be eating mostly protein and fat. And I will tell you, after those 10, 12 miles, I was in the sun, I was sweating, I was in the mountains. I'm from Colorado, so I was doing these trails literally in the mountains, going up the hill and all that. And I would end it, I would go home, and I would feel like I feel good, and then my adrenaline would wear off, and I felt like I was gonna vomit. I could barely walk, I could barely move. I felt so nauseous, and it's because I didn't have enough electrolytes.
Oh, no. You just said it yourself. You're only eating protein and fat and then working out really hard for hours and hours and hours. It wasn't that you were not consuming enough electrolytes. It was you're not consuming any carbohydrate, which is going to be the fuel for the exercise that you're doing, and you wouldn't feel like shit.
There are 2 levers that we're really playing with in this lifestyle, and those 2 levers that we're kind of always adjusting for are protein and fat. Protein and fat. Those are the 2 biggest ones. Protein is necessary for us to maintain and build our muscles. And fat is essential for basically our body to function in so many different, both of them are essential for our body to function, but fat will often give us energy in different ways that protein cannot. Animal fat specifically.
So did she really just say that your body can only use energy from animal fats and not plant-based fats? So avocado, nuts, olive oil, avocado oil, your body can't use those for energy? Because if that's the case, I'm calling bullshit. That is a flat out lie.
As you go in your career as an athlete, if you need more energy and you feel like you're dying, you're not getting enough energy, that probably means you need more fat.
If you're an athlete feeling low in energy, it's not that you need more fat, you need more total calories. Following a carnivore diet makes it very difficult to get adequate calories because protein and fat are very satiating and keep you full for a long period of time. Additionally, if you're an athlete training above 70% VO2 max, like I said, that's most sports, most athletes, then you're probably feeling low in energy while you're following a carnivore diet because you're not including any carbohydrate, which is going to be the main energy source for your body above that 70% VO2 max. So that's the reason, not that you need more fat. You need more total calories, and you need to be eating carbohydrates.
Keep your protein where we had it before to retain your muscle. Add more if you want, but play with the fat parts, and that's going to help you out.
Play with the fat parts? That sounds like the title of a bad Ron Jeremy film.
Chicken is just inherently less fatty. Get some chicken, that's gonna add more calories and more protein to your diet. It's gonna cut out some of that fat. Obviously, if you need more fat, you add the tallow.
Again, this is really going to depend, right? So chicken breast, sure, is super, super lean, not much fat, mostly protein. Chicken thighs, they're going to be fattier. chicken thighs with the skin, even fattier. So just like your different percentages of ground beef or different cuts of steak, you can get chicken that has different amounts of fat. But she doesn't say that because she doesn't know. It just recommends that if you're having chicken, to just throw some tallow that gives a discount for it or description. Just throw some tallow on there to add some fat. No, you could just change the type of chicken or the cut of chicken that you're using if you needed more fat.
You got to stop with the protein shakes. The best case scenario for any person in this lifestyle is to eat real food. And it sucks because, protein shakes, they do, specific ones, they do have really good quality protein in there, but it's the other things that are added that is not beneficial. And some would even argue that the particular size of the proteins, the molecule sizes, are not good for us.
So protein powder is literally just, at least, whey and casein is milk protein, dehydrated milk protein. So it is a real food. It comes from a real food source. It's not like made in a lab somewhere. Second, what are the extra additives that she's talking about that are so harmful? I mean, sure, there are definitely higher quality protein powders on the market and lower quality, shittier ones for sure. If you're concerned about additives like artificial sweeteners and flavors and dyes and things like that, then you just buy a protein powder that doesn't contain those things. It's really not that difficult in 2024 to do that. Then the whole comment about the size of the proteins, like what the literal are you talking about? There are many, many, many different types of protein. You have your protein concentrates, you have your protein isolates, you have your protein hydrolysates, you have whey protein, casein protein, different plant-based proteins of all different kinds. It's like, what are we talking about with molecule size? Again, like whey and casein, those are milk-based proteins. So she's going to talk about drinking raw cow's milk here in a second. That is the same protein, whey and casein in that milk that's in your protein drink. Same molecule size, same everything. Like, I don't know what she's talking about here. If you know what she's talking about, then let me know in the comments below. Or if you have any peer-reviewed research or literature that shows that the molecule size in protein powders causes issues, send it to my email right here, getnutritionsmart@gmail.com.
Processed dairy, just like process anything, it sucks. Like, it's just not good. When we have raw milk, basically we are keeping all of the bacteria in there. Raw milk, it's super good for our microbiome in a lot of cases, but it also has all of the essential nutrients in there. It has a ton of protein, it has a ton of fat, and it does have some carbs in there, but it also has calories.
The risks of drinking raw milk far outweigh any slight potential benefit of drinking raw milk, so would not recommend drinking that.
A lot of people will drink raw dairy because it then spurs their appetite.
No, it doesn't. Again, I don't know where she's pulling these facts from. She must have heard them from somewhere. Again, she has no nutritional background whatsoever. So she must have heard this and is just regurgitating this trash information. Drinking raw milk is more likely to give you diarrhea or have you vomit than it is to increase your appetite. Maybe it increases her appetite because she barely eats anything. I mean, 1,500 calories a day. What the little F? So when she drinks it, she's like, oh shit, like I'm actually giving my body some calories. And it's like, oh, I want more. I want more. As a general recommendation, drinking raw milk is not going to increase your appetite. So don't listen to this garbage recommendation.
If you're trying to build up your size or you're trying to bulk up a little bit more, like fill out a little bit, and you're struggling to have enough calories and protein, drink a glass of raw milk. Sometimes with this carnivore lifestyle, it can be difficult to get enough calories because we get so damn full so quickly that sometimes, you can't get it as much.
Or don't follow the carnivore diet because then you won't be eating an excessive amount of protein and fat. You won't feel full all the time because, again, carnivore diet is specifically targeted and marketed for weight loss. So if you're trying to build muscle, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. Have a balanced diet of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and you'll easily be able to get the amount of calories that you need to build muscle and or gain weight. That is a fact, not opinion.
So fruit is another one of those controversial things. There's going to be so many people with so many different opinions on this, but we're talking about athletes here. As an athlete, if you are needing a little extra boost and you're needing to make sure that you have a little extra something in there and you're running like 15 miles, it's not going to kill you to have a damn apple. Have an apple.
If you're an athlete running 15 miles, don't be following a stupid ass carnivore diet. Your body needs carbs. And isn't eating fruit on a carnivore diet carnivore, meaning meat only diet, isn't that a little bit contradictory? Like, why are you eating fruit if you can get everything that you need as an athlete just eating protein and fat? The simple answer to that question is you can't get everything you need just by eating protein and fat as a high level athlete. So yes, you need to be eating carbs. More and more of these carnivore founders and carnivore doctors are, quitting carnivore and starting to incorporate fruit into their diets, which to me just doesn't make any sense because so many of them are just, demonizing and afraid of eating sugar, yet fruit has sugar. So like why wouldn't you be eating vegetables if you were so terrified of sugar? Like everything that they do is just so contradictory and fraudulent. It's hard to like take them seriously.
If you're gonna binge on fruit, that's a whole different thing. You don't want that.
So one, literally have never come across a person in my entire life or in my 10 years of being a licensed sport dietitian, never come across someone who has binged on fruit. Like, hey Tim, oh man, I just can't lose weight. I'm eating way too many blueberries. I go through, a pint a day. Never happens. Or oh my God, like I'm having this problem. I eat, 5 or 6 apples in a serving. Doesn't happen. Number two, the thing that typically leads to people binging on any type of food is avoidant and restrictive behavior. For example, oh, I'm never having sugar. I'm never having junk food. I'm never having ice cream again. You avoid, 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 avoid. Eventually, you cave in. And when you cave, you binge. So, someone who's not following the carnivore diet and just eating fruit, freely, fruits and vegetables freely, those types of people are not going to binge on fruit. People who are following the carnivore, a very restrictive diet, and they're only eating, steak and eggs and salt. That's a pretty bland, boring ass way to eat. Eventually, yeah, they might start craving some carbohydrate or some sweet foods, some fruit. And then when they are able to have those things, then they binge. So if you don't follow the carnivore diet to begin with, you avoid those problems.
Having a metabolically healthy person having a bit of fruit as an athlete is fine. It's real food, you guys.
So if fruit is okay because it's a real food, then why is this carrot not okay? This is a real food. Why is a potato not okay? That's a real food. What about spinach, celery, avocados, nuts? Those are all real food. Why are those not okay, but fruit is?
After I work out like a long run and I need a little bit of extra, boost in there, I'm feeling like a little depleted, I'll add in an apple and it's fine.
You're feeling depleted because you're not eating enough calories and you're not eating enough carbohydrate to support the amount and intensity of training that you're doing. I'm also not entirely sure why she only refers to apples. Like, why is that a safe food for her? Be curious to know. Like, what makes apples better than berries or grapes or, strawberries, whatever, pineapple, mango? Like, why are you so focused on apples? Like, did you hear from somewhere that apples are healthier or lower in sugar? Or again, I don't know the reason.
Carb loading to have, bigger muscles. The thing is with that is it makes your muscles look puffier because it makes your body retain more water, but that doesn't actually mean that you're getting like muscle and strength.
First of all, I don't know of anyone who uses carb loading specifically as a way to increase muscle or strength. That is not what carb loading is used for. It just isn't. Athletes would use carb loading before a big race or before a game day to make sure their muscles are super compensated with glycogen, muscle glycogen to provide them fuel for that high intensity exercise that they're about to do the following day or that day. It has nothing to do with increasing muscle mass or trying to get stronger. Individuals consume carbs before they go to the gym to work out because, again, if it's a higher intensity type workout, you're doing some circuit training, you're doing heavy lifting, then the carbohydrate is going to provide fuel for that workout. So if you're able to push yourself intensely and do a little bit more weight or do a few extra reps on a particular exercise because you feel good and you have energy, like that is going to give you better results in the long term as opposed to feeling underfueled, feeling tired, feeling lethargic during your workouts. You're not able to push yourself as hard, you're not going to get good results.
So a lot of guys out there will look real big and real puffy because they're having a lot of carbs and they're kind of bulking, right? But that's not actually getting them more strength.
I don't know if she's ever bulked herself before, but that's typically not how it works, especially for dudes. Dudes look puffy and bigger, not because they're eating carbs. And while, yes, carbohydrates do help with water retention and making the muscles look fuller, someone who looks puffy and bigger, if they're bulking, is because they're consuming a lot of extra calories and probably are gaining or already have a high level of body fat. I can tell you, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of elite level athletes, soccer athletes, track athletes, basketball athletes, football, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, linebackers who have sub 10% body fat, and they consume a crap ton of carbs, let me tell you, and they do not look puffy. They look shredded and lean and ripped. So she has no clue what she's talking about.
Moving on to fasting.
Now we're talking about fasting. This is a carnivore diet video where now we're including fasting. So not only are we restricting the types of foods that we're eating, but now we're also restricting the window for which we can eat those foods. Like, where did it go wrong for you, Lauren? Like, what happened? Why were you so enticed by the carnivore diet and fasting? Like, what were you trying to do? And why did you fall victim to this bullshit like so many other people? You should not be fasting and doing the carnivore diet at the same time.
I actually work out fasted pretty much every single day. So I work out 3 to 4 times a week lifting weights, and then I run probably 3 to 4 times a week, about 5 miles, and then I'll do once a week about like 10 or 12 miles. So distance doing trail running. And so for me, I typically work out without eating anything. And I usually will work out midday, usually around lunch, and then I'll eat around 3.
So working out fasted is again one of the biggest pieces of misinformation out there because it's marketed and promoted as, oh, when you work out fasted you're going to oxidize more fat. And while that is true, oxidizing more fat during a workout does not mean and does not result in the outcome of having decreased body fat percentage or actually losing significant amounts of body fat on your body. That is just not how it works. You would get more out of your training if you actually fueled beforehand because you'd be able to push yourself. You wouldn't feel like shit. You wouldn't hit the wall. You wouldn't feel like you're going to pass out and vomit. You'd have energy to crush it. And ultimately, to lose body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. So if you're pushing yourself harder, you're able to burn more calories, have a longer afterburn after that workout, then that is going to help with that calorie deficit in addition to your diet to help you lose body fat and be leaner. So her typical eating pattern goes against almost every single sport nutrition recommendation, muscle building, getting lean type recommendation, whatever you want to call it, out there. Not eating before she works out, then she eats at noon and then doesn't eat for sometimes 2 to 3 hours after that. So not getting any kind of recovery meal, recovery protein in after the workout, and she's fasting for long periods of time throughout the day. It's like that is not going to help you get the results that you're looking for, especially if you're an athlete. And yes, someone following that type of routine is probably going to lose weight pretty quickly. But in terms of, sustained weight loss or actual improvements in body composition and athletic performance, or even looking at long-term health, that type of eating pattern would not be recommended.
Ultimately, when you are fasted, that's allowing your body, if you've been doing this animal-based or carnivore lifestyle long enough, to be more fat adapted, meaning your body is using energy from its stored fat.
Man, I don't know how to tell her this, but she's wrong again. So, as I mentioned just a few seconds earlier, yes, working out fasted will result in a higher level of fat oxidation during exercise because your body needs some type of fuel, some type of substrate to fuel the activity. Protein is not really utilized. The body does not want to use protein for fuel. You haven't given it any exogenous fuel, any food. You don't have any carbohydrate because you're not eating any carbohydrate. So your body has to use fat that you've eaten, the fat that is stored. That does not mean that you are fat adapted because someone who is just eating a normal balanced diet who works out fasted would also have a higher level of fat oxidation during a fasted bout of exercise. The fat oxidation happens because you're following a very low carbohydrate, high fat diet, something like a keto diet or carnivore diet. And like I said before, working out fasted is not going to inherently result in lower body fat percentages. If that were the case, then there would be millions and millions of people working out fasted every day who would be super lean, super shredded, not an ounce of body fat on them if that were the case. But it's simply not true. And in the videos, she's probably about mid to low 20s in terms of body fat percentage. So nothing like mind blowing, earth shattering in terms of results from following a carnivore diet. Again, I don't know how long she's been following a carnivore diet, but you can get similar and even better results by following a different dietary approach that's much less restrictive.
What I eat is I want to have 4 eggs and about 4 to 6 strips of bacon. So that comes out to about 600 calories right there. I'm getting a very healthy mix of protein and fat.
As we said before, bacon is not healthy. So, no, you're not getting a healthy mix of protein and fat. You're eventually giving yourself colon cancer.
And then I'll give it about 4 hours till I need to eat again. And I'll typically eat 1 pound of ground beef.
So it's pretty easy to see, why the carnivore diet is successful for people who are looking to lose weight because these meals are super bland and boring. I mean, I couldn't imagine eating a pound of ground beef at a meal with just some added salt, no seasoning, no nothing, like no extra components to it. Like eating that day after day after day has got to be, pretty depressing, and you probably lose your appetite and excitement to eat. So when you don't have a big appetite or desire to eat, you're eating high protein, high fat, which are inherently very, filling, satiating foods. That's going to result in a calorie deficit. When you have a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. So the carnivore diet is nothing magical in terms of, helping you lose weight. It's the same as any other diet or eating pattern that you could possibly follow that results in a calorie deficit.
I'm getting around the amount of protein. So that's going to be about 125 grams of protein so far that I've had that day. So for me, I know I need to get about 25 grams more of protein that day. So usually I've eaten around 6 or so that night. I might now have a little bit more ground beef later on as a snack.
So again, we've gone way away from intuitive eating. She knows the amount of protein that she's eating per day. She says, I eat 125 grams of protein. She's trying to get to 150. Like if you were intuitive eating, you would be listening to your body, not counting macros or calories, number one. And two, like later on in the video, she decides to have another snack of ground beef to get to that 150. Like, were you actually listening to your body? Like, were you actually hungry? Did you feel like you needed some more calories or more protein at that time? Or are you just trying to reach that 150 calorie or 150 gram target? Because if that's the case, again, that is not eating based off of intuition. That is eating based off of numbers, of macros.
Really, you guys, I'm using intuition as much as I can on this.
So, like many of the other points that you've made during this video, Lauren, I would say that that statement about eating based off of intuition is false.
There's so many people out there that are eating this way as athletes.
And no, I would call BS on that because, again, there's a big difference between high level elite athletes and recreational, just like to work out for fun athletes. High level athletes that are competing at the Olympic level, the professional level, Division One level, certainly are not following carnivore diet. So now that we watch the video, I'll give you a quick kind of overall analysis in my take. The first thing is it said the title of the video was 7 Pro Tips. There was definitely a lot of information in her video, but I didn't hear 7 pro tips. Probably 15 different things that she commented on, but like didn't clearly identify what these 7 pro tips were. So I'm just leaving this video very confused. And then it's very clear based off watching this video that she is quite misinformed on a lot of nutrition topics. Again, she has no nutrition background. So she had to be getting this information from somewhere, which just goes to show the scary state of the world these days, where nutrition is very confusing. Anyone can go online and call themselves an expert. Anyone can give nutrition advice, information, charge for coaching, when clearly a lot of these so-called experts don't know what they are talking about. I mean, telling people that bacon is healthy, that you should be eating the number of calories based off your height and weight, that you should be, following carnivore and fasting, that, you need salt plus electrolytes when salt is literally an electrolyte. Again, there's a lot of misinformation here, and a lot of the things that she says are just simply ludicrous. If she charges for her coaching sessions, maybe if one of you watching has paid her for a coaching session, I hope she offers refunds because again, she doesn't know what she's talking about and it's probably providing a lot of this, poor misinformation to other people and clients. I have solace in knowing that the high level athletes that I work with and that work with a lot of my colleagues around the country at different universities and professional teams, um, these individuals would not allow these athletes to fall victim to the misinformation, provided in this video and many other videos all over social media and the internet these days. And ultimately, that's why I have this channel. That was my mission when I started this channel was to provide the highest level evidence-based nutrition information for athletes out there who don't have that support system of highly trained professionals giving them advice on how to train appropriately, how to eat appropriately, what supplements to use, which ones are garbage, which ones are actually effective. There are a lot of you out there watching who don't have that support system. So I'm hoping that you came across this video and we're able to learn something that would prevent you from going down this path of misinformation and potentially doing something that's going to hurt your performance or your health. So I will continue to debunk and discredit the garbage information like what we just saw in this video and hold individuals spewing that misinformation accountable for what they say. So sorry, Lauren, but we are all dumber for having watched this video, and may God have mercy on your soul. Next up in this series, I'll be reacting to this video from Dr. Sarah Saldivar. Subscribe so you don't miss it.